So today I would like to speak about being nothing. All our lives we've been trying to be something and somebody. And in the sharing that I heard today, this morning, there was so much of that conflict between being nothing and a part of and hanging on. We will suffer the negative voice just in order to be something.
Yes.
When I founded the Triple I Foundation for Intuition, Intervention, Integration, which by the way was in Ramona, many years ago, we had a statement of purpose, and in that statement of purpose was the line, raging and fearful, we experience ourselves as real. Aligned and harmonious, we're afraid we would lose ourselves. That's me. Whether I'm Gaddafi or I'm Beth Green, whether I'm Elizabeth or Roz, whichever me happens to be manifesting in the moment, it's always the same. Whether I appear to be puffed up or crushed, I am separate. And yet, to be part of the oneness threatens the I that we've worked so hard to develop, as James was speaking about, in terms of, I am developing my spiritual self to evolve to a higher level of consciousness for my enlightenment. And that sounds really good. But it's not. Because there is nothing enlightened about that. It is still the I. No matter how we dress it up, it's still the I. Still alone, still struggling, still fearful, still striving, still outside God. And we have the option today, and I truly believe this, because I feel it, to experience ourselves as part of the oneness and not just talk about it. And when we have that experience and we compare it to the other, we can see the counterfeit. And then the turmoil really starts to rev up. Because our awareness of how we feel tells us we want this. I want to feel part of the oneness. I want to come to the service, as Jim was talking about. But if I do, who will I be? I will be absorbed. And it can be called, I don't feel well today, or I'm too busy, or whatever it is. I don't agree with that, or whatever we dress it up as. But what it really is our fear of losing ourselves in the oneness that we long for. Or we could say losing ourselves in the God that we crave. And when our spiritual teachings reinforce the belief in I, where can we go to really get the support to shift from that way of being? And in our world, there is essentially no support for it, although more and more we talk about teams and talk about teams, by the way. Our economic system, our social system, they all reinforce the I, don't they? Now, I want to mention something that I've talked about before, which is the oppression of the we. We all know from our experiences in our families, our experiences in communities, and for many of us also who have a knowledge of history, we know from the history of humanity that collectives are very repressive. and damaging. You want to belong to a spiritual community. I'm thinking for a moment as I'm looking at Naomi about Orthodox Jews, because I come from a Jewish tradition. There's no room for homosexuality. And I saw a video which was incredible about homosexual religious Jews who wanted to maintain that old religion, and there was no place for them. And how painful that was because they believed that they had to lose God in order to be themselves. This is only one example. The oppression of the collective. Who would want it? And so we have a longing to be free and to be I. We don't want to listen to our parents anymore. We want to go out there and be ourselves. So if you think about it in social terms, in psychological terms, in the experience we had growing up as children, the extended family, the Chinese families, the tribe, you have no freedom. So of course we want to be individuals. And we do feel like we lose ourselves, that we have to give up something of ourselves in order to belong. And that has been our experience. But that is not what we're being offered. That is, however, what we project upon it. There's another way to be part of the oneness, and that is to be an individuated expression of God, part of the oneness. But for so many of us, God is a projection of our parents, or the nun who hit my fingers with a ruler. The disciplinarian, the one who tried to make us, to break our spirit. Why should we go towards that? And the only reason we should go towards that is because we realize that running away from oneness and taking the individual route leads to fear and anger and isolation and pain, and goes against the grain of the human spirit, which is longing for community. And we've also had experiences of community that were good. But so many of them were in fact contaminated. You take the gang. Those young people are desperate for love and community, and yet look what it leads them into. And they too have had to make the choice of whether they're going to stay with the collective where they feel safe, secure, and loved, or that they're going to go out on their own into something frightening. So at times, breaking out of the collective has been an important moment of evolution for us, to break away from traditions and beliefs that have hurt us and have bound us and have kept us small, stupid, and repressed. But that's only a step. That's like making that be the end. Once we have taken that step, and we've said, I don't want that, then we can become free to say, I do want this. And if it doesn't exist, I'm going to co-create it. And that's what we are trying to do. The stream, we are trying to co-create the world we want to live in. A world that is not ego-based, where I exist as an individuated manifestation of a higher consciousness, and that I see that in you. And so when we make decisions, we refer to God, and we say, would it most effectively unleash the power of the source for me to get in my car and come to the spiritual service today? Because it's not about me anymore, it's about the we, which is exemplified, personified, symbolized by what we call God. And God is not the coming together of the individuals, but the individuals are the manifestation of the whole. Now, that's freedom. That's freedom because I'm no longer dominated by you, and I'm not dominated by my ego. Whoopee. Both of which are painful forms of domination. But what it takes is surrender of everything we've been building up. But I've been working for 40 years on the I. I've been trying to get more powerful, me more powerful, me self-realized, me whatever, richer, thinner. Definitely more powerful. And do we have to stop now and say all of that was for naught? Well, if you look at it from an evolutionary perspective, you can say, no, it's not for naught. We did it. It was an important step for us. But don't you ever get out of middle school? Can't we ever go on to at least high school? Can we learn something new? Maybe even graduate school. So there's nothing wrong. There was nothing wrong with our journey. There was nothing wrong with this move into ego-based capitalist reality, where even our spirituality looked like capitalism. I'm going to manifest wealth for myself. With God's help, of course. It was a step. So that we could come to the end of that road and say, is this where I want to end up, or was this just a moment? And say, I've learned this. I now feel my individuality, and I'm ready to surrender to the higher good, because that's where I will find my true self, my higher self, which is becoming nothing.